imagine adding UMass Lowell to that list. These are lists of schools that have involved green roof technology into their campuses, and our goal is to include UMass Lowell. My name is Kira Walsh. I am a biology student here. With me, I have Rachel and Mike. They are also biology students, as well as Megan, a history student. So we identified one major problem for a bunch of groups of people here on UMass Lowell's campus, and that's a lack of green space. This affects students because they're not able to go outside and study without feeling like they're in a safe, secure environment because the public has access to all of our green space. There's also just not a lot of it. Faculty also would be able to enjoy more green space, and it increases the amount of potential students because a lot of students actually look at how attractive a school is when they are looking at what schools they want to go to. And the Lowell communities will also have a benefit because living in an urban environment means there's more pollution. So we took a survey of 51 freshman students here at UMass Lowell. We chose freshmen because they most recently made the decision about where they wanted to go. We reached out to them via social media, and we asked them some questions about the green space at UMass Lowell. We found about 70% of them said that they cared about how attractive a school was when they were applying, and that they didn't think UMass Lowell had enough green space. There's also a lot of other opportunities involved with green roofs. As you can see, there's an increase in revenue. This is because there's heating and cooling benefits because of the insulation. There's also an increase in LED points up to 15 points, which has insurance and investment benefits. And organizations such as Apex Green Roofs has worked with some of these schools that I mentioned previously. So they are in the area and we would be able to reach out to them. This is also unique to UMass Lowell. All of the other schools have only used it as an insulation and actually environmental portion. None of them have used it as a study space. So the green roof is, as you can see in this picture here, you have the concrete of the roof, you have your waterproofing membrane, and then above that you're going to actually have basically a garden area. We are talking about using a semi-intensive roof. Doesn't require as much irrigation and maintenance. We could do it with simply a hose and external sprinklers. And it would be perfect if we wanted to have picnic tables and benches and things like that. We hope to eventually expand over time with the introduction of rooftop greenhouses, partnerships with local urban growing communities, such as Mill City Grows, and the creation of a gardening club, which would help with fundraising. Thank you. So there's a lot of benefits to our solution. It's a safe and secure study space for students, as we previously mentioned. There's the heating and cooling benefits. It would also increase UMass Lowell's reputation as the first school to use it as a study space, and also just being listed with those prestigious schools is very important. It also lowers risk of flooding and has a lot of decrease of air pollution within the city. So it costs about $100,000 to $400,000 to implement this. So the $400,000 is if you need to rework the roof in order to support it. So this goes towards materials, labor costs, and we actually hope that we can decrease that even further with not only using a roof that's already able to support the weight, but also having fellowships and co-ops for engineering students here. Our goal of construction would be to do it over the summer. It takes only about 2 to 3 weeks to implement the green roof, and so then we'd be able to have it in working order for the fall. And there's also a lot of additional grants that we could get. UMass Lowell has sustainability grants, the Environmental Protection Agency, and then a lot of external private environmental groups will actually help out with grants as well. You can reapply for those grants for maintenance. And that is basically our presentation. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
So have you identified roof space on the campus at this time that you implement on?
So our hope is to implement it on, specifically we're looking at North Campus. Obviously South, you can see, has a lot more green space than on North does. And we're looking at the library because it's easy access for students with a study space. However, we would need to do a little bit more research into which roofs would be best for it. However, with a semi-intensive roof, there's not a huge amount of weight, so most roofs are actually able to sustain it.
Oh, I was going to say, did you talk to any of the building people about, do they have railings, what railing requirements?
I don't be afraid of falling off when you're afraid.
Yeah, other things besides the grass part of it.
So you do need to have a certain height of fence. I don't remember quite off the top of my head what it was. What?
42 inches.
40 inches. There we go. Perfect. Somebody knows. So that's going to be the height around the edge that you would need to have for
So you need to build those.
The other question following that, typically you're gonna have to convince the fire department of egress. Okay, so stop thinking about that, because it may not be an easy way off that roof. Build that, so, we looked at the structural retrofit, which is a big issue, even though if it's lightweight.
Yeah.
But again, that's gonna take some analysis, so you should target your building that has the most structural capacity to keep that. But I think the biggest issue is gonna be egress. May limit the number of students you can put up on that roof unless you do some real invasive construction, but it's,
We were thinking a good way to control students would actually be to have it be card access, so then you could also have a certain time of night where it no longer becomes accessible. And you could also have with something like that, if you're putting cards in as you go in, if you had the same thing going out, you could have a program that allows only a certain amount of students onto the roof.
And I'm sorry, did you talk to the people about what buildings were being retrofitted because there's so much construction stuff going on? For instance, Perry Hall is under construction now, right? And they're working on the roof as part of that. Have you guys
So
talked
we
to them?
haven't been able to reach anyone in those departments with the school yet. We've been trying to call and get in touch with them. So hopefully we'll hear from them soon. We have talked to a couple contractors. We've looked at here. I actually have some external slides. So these are a couple companies that already have done this with other schools. So they'd be very willing to work with UMass Lowell and would be able to help get estimates really easily as soon as we picked a building, as well as be able to come and look and inspect the building themselves. Mike's dad also works in construction, so we've had a lot of help from him as well.
Yeah, he's done a lot of green projects with like Harvard and BU and BC.
And you have to help me with, how does it help flooding? I'm having a hard time figuring that out.
So when you have just a concrete or a tar roof, all of that rainwater is just going to just rinse right off, which actually also increases pollution because you'll be losing tar molecules as well. Having a green roof will actually absorb a lot of that water, and so you end up with less of it leaving and running off into the waterways, which especially all they've done to clean up the Merrimack. It would be great to not have anything else get into it.
and increase the load of the roof. Have you, again, you haven't talked about it at the university because of the procurement process, they have to go on to do this, so you'll be talking to them.
Yeah.
So 3 biology majors and a history major? So where's the engineer who's going to do the structural analysis on the roofs? Or are you going to have the building people do that?
So there's 2 ways we could do it. We could have just work with the contractor directly. The other thing we could do is talk to the contractors and seeing if they'd be willing to do fellowships and co-ops with engineering students here. We already have programs such as the co-op scholarship, which is things that goes on over the summer, so we could have that introduced into the engineering program. And then there's also things like honors fellowships where we could get students involved that way as well.
And what kind of, besides grass, can you put bushes and trees and
So-
things like that for shade or?
So that's an intensive roof. We chose semi-intensive because it requires a lot less weight. Obviously, if you're putting trees up,
Yeah.
then you actually have to put in irrigation systems, which have a lot more maintenance. This maintenance for a semi-intensive has been likened to about the same as a sidewalk planter. That's what the EPA has identified it as. But this also allows for a lot more space if you have students wanting to hang out up there as compared to taking up spaces with trees. But you could have bushes and things like that. We also hope if we partnered with Mill City Grows that we could actually end up having some edibles up there, and the gardening club could expand that way into community service.
So if the difference makers didn't have $100,000, but they allowed a gym project, so what would the first amount of money you would need, and what would you use it for?
So the first amount of money would go towards having the inspections done that we need to. You do need to hire contractors for that kind of thing. And then we would use grants beyond that to fund the actual building.
How much to do inspections? Kind of an assessment or a survey of?
Do you remember? I don't remember off the top of my head, sorry.
And is that something these contractors do? Do they do feasibility studies? Is that built in, or is that something extra?
The company that my dad works for, I know contacts that are professional engineers who have done this, and I could do it for free.
Okay.
I could have them
So that would be
look
the
and
first
examine
step.
buildings,
Okay.
once we know which buildings that UML wants to consider.
And then who is your point of contact at UMass Lowell? I guess you'll learn about
So-
university politics. It's gonna be a little side course here, but so who do you, in other words, why don't we know who's in charge of this? Yeah.
So
It's such a great idea. We should be on top of this, right?
we started here because we thought it would be the best way to get the idea out there and help us have a backing when we were to approach other people in different departments. We're reaching out to engineering because we figured they would be able to offer the most help and support. Beyond that, obviously, you need to clear it through, people who are higher up. There's also portions that are like sustainability. I spoke to a guy a couple days ago who was in a sustainability department who looks at how much like carbon that the school is producing and things like that.
So you're hoping that this process could actually kind of
Get the ball rolling.
Get the ball rolling,
Yeah.
raise the visibility of the concept on the
Exactly.
campus. Good, smart, good idea.
It's actually the woman who's head of the finance is also responsible for the buildings too, right?
Joanne, that's okay.
Joanne, yeah.
Good.
Oh yeah, so we had a cool effect. Michigan State actually just put these in, and they are planning on a return investment of $200,000. So it kind of puts in perspective exactly how much you get on that return of that initial $100,000 investment. And that was over, I want to say it was about a 15-year time span.
And
So
the
it'll continue.
ROI is based on more students wanting to come, or what's the
Yep,
ROI?
so you have increased students coming in. The biggest thing is really the heating and cooling costs. The insulation really decreases the amount that you're going to need, and you have a much more stable internal environment.
Especially with Michigan, since it's very cold there.
Yeah, and being in New England and having such huge fluctuations, that's huge for us because you don't want to end up heating on a day that you don't need to.
Or cooling, right?
Yes.
Because then that's the benefit, year round.
Yeah, exactly. So that when it hits 70 in the middle of winter, like it has this year.
Throw a couple of solar panels out there too while we're up on the roof and we're all set.
And I like the Mill City Grows connection as well, because they're a product of this system, I think.
Yeah.
And what's an LED point and what does that do for you?
So LED is a program that's international, and points basically, they lead to certifications. So to get a certain certification, you need so many points, and Green Roof would do 15 or more points, which is, you need like 40 to get the minimum certification, and basically when you have the certification, it can lead to state and federal tax credits, other rewards that they give, like money grants.
So like you could be like a green school or something and you could get funding associated with that, is that?
Yeah, it's specifically for each building, so if one building has to have a certain amount of credits to get the certification. It also increases the value of the building for like, just in general.
Which, with the building being part of a campus, you're going to end up, they'll look upon the campus as a whole better as well because you have certain buildings reaching that.
Lead certification is mostly done by universities and higher up, like Apple, most people, because they can afford the investment.
Right.
Payback is really a long-term, it's more of a community investment again. So most non-educational firms don't go into it because the certification cost is so high and the return is kind of low compared to everything. So, but it's a good program.
Good.
Any other questions?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fantastic.